What would you put in your backpack if you had a new coaching engagement but could only take a limited number of items? Each week, the Coach's Backpack looks at the multifaceted world of coaching and asks a new guest to tell us what they would take with them and why. This week, we're taking a peek inside the backpack of Simon Powers, CEO and founder of AWA. Hello, Simon.
Hi, David. Thanks for inviting me here.
Thank you for coming on the show. Simon, first off, how would you describe yourself in under 20 words?
Under 20 words, there's a challenge for you. I would describe myself as someone who removes the suffering in organizations, who helps people be the best they can, or helps systems be the best they can. And that's it, only 20 words.
That's a very good, succinct description. Okay, well, look, here is the scenario, Simon. You've been asked to coach a new client, but are limited to what you can take with you. Okay, so don't worry, you've got your essentials, you've got your clothes, your toothbrush, your selection of t-shirts. And in addition to all of those, you can take one book, one tool / technique / concept / method / approach, whatever you want to call it, another item of your choice, and then one person to accompany you. And they can be from the past or the present. So in any order that you choose, what would you take with you and why?
Oh, thank you. Well, first of all, it's fantastic to be going away again. We've been locked down for so long that having a backpack is already making me feel very buoyant and excited. So thinking about what I put in my backpack, if I'm going to go away and teach a client, then I really want that client to be able to have some background on the way that I work and the approach. So I would be very cheeky here, and I would take my own book. I don't know whether that's allowed or whether that's too cheeky.
I mean, it is very cheeky. You would never catch me plugging the Lemonade Stall or the Innovation Revelation or my books anywhere, Simon. But go on, we'll let you continue.
So my book is called Change, and it's about organisational change and all the aspects of what makes it hard, what makes it easy, and how to really remove the sort of bumps and the suffering of organisational change. And my book is actually only half written. So that would also give me a time on this fantastic holiday you've arranged for me, David, to
no
finish
one said
off.
Holiday, Simon. No one said holiday. This is a working job.
So you can actually you can only read my book on Medium at the moment, and this would be great help for some feedback on that. But I would actually take my time to finish writing it, and also I would like clients to read this first, because it really does give people a sense of what coaching is about, especially from a systemic point of view of looking at people over process, and really giving this idea that the coach is not ego-led or idea-based or agenda-based, and so that you're bringing out the best for that system or that coach without putting your own stuff in over the top. And I think that really the core of any type of coaching really has to embody this idea of people over process, and that's really why I like people to read this first. So I hope that's not too cheeky with my own book.
No, so just digging into that. So I just want to clarify something, because we've got a load of different coaches coming onto this podcast. Yeah. Your approach to coaching is different from some of them in that I understand from what you've just said, I understand you're not directing them.
Yes, correct. And there's in enterprise coaching, there's an element of directing around creating good experiments that they can try, but really we're not directing the course of their actions. We're not directing them in a way that is preconceived from our own agendas. Because what that does is, I love this phrase of people love change, but they don't like being changed. Mm-hmm. And so what we do is we want to, the leaders of the business, the people being coached, the managers, the teams, those people know their work way better than we could ever know their work. So what we want to do is we want to create an environment where they can figure out where they're at right now, where they need to be, and how they're going to get there, because we're not always going to be around. So we really want to be able to create an environment where people can solve their own problems. So us coming in as consultants rather than coaches is this idea that we know best about somebody else's business. And time again, we've seen that simply isn't the case. And to bring out somebody else's expertise, to bring out their own collaboration, to enhance that sense of their own vision and their own direction of travel is way more powerful than a consultant or directive approach, especially when we're talking about organizational change.
Well, look, I'm a very generous person, Simon, so I'm going to let you take your book. So Change, where can people find it?
simonpowers.medium.com. And there's about 6 or 7, 8-ish chapters on there at the moment.
Okay. But as it is a half finished, I'm also going to let you, I'm going to let you take this other book that you mentioned you were reading. So what's this other book that you would like to take?
So the other book I'm reading at the moment is Somatic Internal Family Systems Therapy. I'm actually training to be a therapist as well as a coach.
That is one hell of a snappy title for a book.
You can think of it as, let's think about it around the word somatic, really. What I'm investigating and playing with is the idea that there's a lot of knowledge within the body. So if you think about when you sit down and you crunch up, you have a bad body posture, then you come up with certain thoughts and certain ways of thinking, and certain things arise. Now, if you take a stretch back, take a deep breath, stretch out and sort of have an expansive posture, it gives you a very different look into life, a very different approach or a different feeling. And often, depending on how certain things have happened, we encapsulate certain knowledge or wisdom in the body, depending on where and how we were working at the time of that wisdom. And really getting that back out in the coaching session allows people to sort of investigate what's happening in their own body, and they can get a lot out of sort of being more conscious about what's happening for them in that given moment. And I'm using that as an aid for these coaching sessions.
That does sound pretty interesting. I remember a story when I started my postgraduate coaching, and the tutor told us this story of someone who was very sad or very miserable with their way of life, and or maybe it was a doctor they went to see, and the person said, "Well, look, just on your way home, I just want you to look up at all of the buildings. I want you to look up at the top of the buildings, right?" I don't know if this is along the right lines. They went home looking up at the buildings, and they got home and they felt much happier because they'd been looking up rather than looking down at the feet all of the time. So is it that kind of thing?
Absolutely. And in fact, that's a fantastic example. If you look downwards, there's a very much an introspection. You go into your mind, into what's happening inside. If you look on the level, then you feel much more present about what's happening. You're more connected to the environment. And if you look up, you get this kind of expansive feel. Much more is possible with your life, much more is going on, simply by where you position your head. So if you can imagine the different dynamics of what happens within the body and things that get stored over a lifetime, then accessing those and really making that aware and a useful tool for the coachee, the player, is very beneficial. Fascinatingly enlightening of what comes out of it. We kind of think we're these minds being carried around by this carcass of a body, but actually we are this body, and there's a lot of information in there for us.
Brilliant. Right. Well, we should move on because we've still got a tool, technique, concept, etc., another item, and a person to hear about.
Oh, fantastic. So the tool or technique or whatever is, for me, is about ethics. So I would take with me a bunch of ethics, because any decision-making or any decision-making framework, I feel, should have at some step in there some sort of ethics. And I think that also coaching has a bunch of ethics that one could investigate to learn more. So being as this is about Coach's Backpack, I would look to be an ethical coach and take with me my ethics.
I don't know where to go with this in terms of a discussion, Simon. I mean, I have got some ethics I'd just like to add.
Well, the reason why I would take it is because many coaches investigate ethics. In fact, if you're a member of many of the coaching bodies, for example, the ICF, you adhere to a bunch of ethics, industry ethics that have kind of been defined for you. And when I look through these ethics, some I resonate with, some I don't. And there's some ethics that I've got which aren't encapsulated in this industry standard list. So for me, I would like to kind of create my own ethics. So I've done that, and I've created my sort of list of ethics and things that guides me. And the big challenge, I think, for coaches is that they kind of get these ethics, they take the industry ethics, and then they don't do anything with them. And what I feel is that our decision making, the day-to-day decision making that we all make hundreds of decisions every day. At what point does the decision making get complex enough or difficult enough that we should then go and start using the ethics as a way to guide and help us with our decision making? And I think this is something that coaches need to think about early on, before that point, to have a good decision-making framework, a personal framework, or in the case of organizational change, more of an explicitly defined framework of decision-making when certain complexity or difficulty crosses a certain line, that then we can bring those ethics in and help guide us with the decision-making that we're making. So that's kind of the reason why I would take that in my backpack, in the hope to sort of, if I do come across any complex decisions with my client, then I might be able to kind of navigate my way through with my ethical framework.
Yeah, it is one of those things that people often don't think about until they have to, and it's a bit late by then, right?
Exactly. And, we come across all sorts of things as coaches. People come up with the most like challenging problems, which are nothing to do with the business things. I mean, business and goal-based coaches, we're looking forwards, we look to grow people. We're not, in this case, in this instance, as a coach's backpack, I'm not putting on my therapist's backpack. But that doesn't stop coachees or players coming and telling us about some incredibly deep, challenging, life-changing circumstances they're going through. Everything from tragic things like contemplating suicide to awful things with family breakups and all these kind of things. And how do you navigate that as a coach when it's beyond our realm? And really, this is where ethics can help guide us to give the right and appropriate help to those people that have come to us for help.
And you mentioned that there are a load of places like the International Coaching Federation that do sessions on this. We'll put some pointers of where people can go and find out more about ethics and maybe have some discussions around them. You often think that, well, I know what I do, but actually when you're given a scenario, and often they get harder and harder and harder as the session goes through, it does make you question stuff. And of course, there's no straight answers often, right?
Absolutely.
Good. Okay, Simon, where are we going next?
So I think what we'll do next is the item of choice, I think, will come next. And what I would take with me, I'm actually going to cheat again here, but actually I think where we're going is probably have some of these items, so I could pick them up on the way. Watermelons and hammers. We're taking watermelons and hammers. And if I can only take one thing, then it's going to be a hammer, because I could probably find watermelons when we get there.
It doesn't need any further explanation, Simon. Everyone's going to know exactly why you want a watermelon and a hammer, right?
Because the reason why I'm taking this, I actually borrowed this idea from a sports coach. And the idea is basically that many of the times we come in, you can't coach somebody when they are in a very conflicted state, very angry, very emotional state. And often we need to be able to vent before we can actually reach that part of ourselves, that inner self, who is the guiding wisdom, which we all have. Often we're sort of controlled by these crazy emotions about what's going on. So my watermelons and hammers, if we do have that and we do need to find our client needs some venting to be able to get out some of this emotion, then they can take the hammer and smash the watermelons up, which will give them that sense of being able to get some of this emotion out before we can actually do the real coaching.
It's your choice, Simon. So you're welcome to obviously take, if you have only one of those to take. I probably suggest taking a punch bag rather than just a hammer, because what are they going to hit if you just take a hammer? But anyway, we'll let you have the watermelon and a hammer as a set. Okay. I don't want to give you just a hammer to take to a client. So I think that's dangerous. And who are you taking?
I'm taking you, David. I think that you should come along, because I think that you would be a fantastic person to have, because one of the other areas which is sorely looked over in coaching is supervision. And I know that when I get into the thick of it with my client, I'm going to need someone I can rely and trust upon to be able to share some of the challenges and problems that I've got and have sensible and decent feedback from a fellow coach. So I'm going to take you, David.
And I'm honoured, Simon, although I am still wondering whether it's in case the hammer or the watermelon break, and you can always use me to bust open the watermelon, or they can hit me with a hammer. So I'm not completely convinced that that's the reason you're taking me, but we'll just gloss over it. Okay, good. Well, thank you for your choices. There's a couple of other questions I want to ask you. So imagine that you hadn't packed all of your backpack yourself. Someone had helped you. There might be a few things in there you didn't expect. What would be the one thing that you would want to make sure is definitely not in that backpack?
I wouldn't want a COVID mask, because I'm sick of wearing COVID masks. That might be a revolutionary, challenging, thing to say right now, and I'm sure that's going to divide the audience 50-50. But I am sick of wearing COVID masks.
I mean, obviously, we know why we've got to wear them. There's a couple of reasons that they really irritate me as well. One, which is definitely a first world problem, is you can't open your iPhone with the eye scanner thing, because it seems to have to recognize the lower half of your face as well, which is really irritating.
Yeah.
But also, don't you find the most annoying thing is that you just can't read reactions as well? I never realized how much we read the lower half of a face.
Yeah, and it just irritates my face. I mean, I do really feel for. I mean, what I'm, like you say, first world problem. I'm not a key worker. People have to wear these all day, so full respect for that. And maybe it's because I'm not used to wearing them or something, but certainly I just find it so irritating on my face. You're absolutely right. I can barely hear people when I in the shops. I have to ask like 5 different times what somebody said, because I think that I actually lip read a lot of what people are saying, which I didn't know this before.
It's because your hearing's going, Simon.
Pardon? Nearly had you.
You nearly did.
So yeah, so that's another challenge I have, and I think that in a coaching situation, COVID mask is going to be really hard. I haven't actually had to coach someone with a COVID mask on.
You better get on your way to wherever you're going. Where do you hope that you are going, or where do you hope that you're not going?
Well, I definitely hope that I'm going somewhere warm, because we've had a long winter here, and although it is warming up in the UK here, it would definitely be nice to go somewhere with palm trees. And I have that in my mind now, ever since you've said that I can go away somewhere with this backpack and that you're paying for it. I'm thinking hot water, bath temperature seas, and so that we can do coaching on the beach. That's kind of where I hope I'm going. And where I hope I'm not going is pretty much the opposite, somewhere cold, somewhere with horrible office blocks and offices which are worn down and run out and all that kind of thing. Because I've had the last year, as we all have, away from the office, and it's been fantastic. I mean, I've missed people, absolutely missed people, seeing people in the flesh, but I've not missed the office. So I hope I'm not going to an office, really. I'd much rather go and coach on the beach.
And I'm not an expert in watermelons, but I'm suspecting that you could maybe get watermelons in this climate wherever you're heading. All you got to do is take your own book and a hammer in your backpack along with your OM t-shirts. Quite a light travel. I mean, I'm not sure if you'll get through customs with that.
Well, the hammer might be a problem. Yeah, or the watermelon, I suppose. And if I haven't got a COVID mask, I've got no chance of getting on an aeroplane.
This gig isn't going to go well, I don't think. I'm not sure you're going to get there. Right, well, Simon, thank you for being our guest.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. What a fantastic idea.
It's been a lot of fun as well. And thanks for joining us on this episode of The Coach's Backpack. If you would like extra goodies such as free tools, offers, watermelons, hammers, further info about our guests, and maybe even the odd peek inside their actual backpack, sign up to our mailing list at thecoachesbackpack.com. And don't forget to follow the podcast too. See you next time.